failure. This is part of the job. I mean, I tell my team, like, if you're not failing, you're probably not betting big enough, you know?
Today's episode of Everyday Leadership, I have the pleasure of having a conversation with Sean Kim. He is the president and chief product officer of Kajabi. For those of you who know Kajabi, it's an amazing platform for, I want to say for creators like myself, or coaches like myself, and it's a world-leading platform for like creating courses, go-to-market strategies, different things like that. So it's an amazing platform. But prior to that, he's had head of product positions at TikTok, worked for a small company like Amazon, has so much more experience all the way through. So I have the absolute pleasure to have a conversation and learn from those lessons over the last number of years. How you doing, Sean?
Good. How's it going? And thank you for having me.
Right, so it's always good to look back at someone like yourself and be like, what was that path, that journey for you? So I'm curious, younger, teenage Sean, what was it like?
I've always had some entrepreneurial, spirit in me back in the day. Even when I was much younger, I would sell things at school, right, and try to make some money that way. I used to actually collect cans at one point and try to make some money.
Cans?
Yeah, because if you collect aluminum cans and you take them to this station, and then they would give you some, I think, like pennies for every can that you collected, and so on. That's how I used to make some money on the side when I was much younger. I used to, go to Korea, buy socks in bulk, these toe socks where it's kind of like gloves for your toes, and sell those at school for a couple $2 a pair. And then when I moved to New York, it was so expensive there that I had to find other means of income. And one of the things I used to do at my first job was to make Korean food at home and then bring it to the office and sell it. Yeah. So, I had no shame. Like, it's like, hey, you got to do what you got to do, right, to make it. So that's just kind of the, I guess, entrepreneurial spirit that I had ever since I was young, to make sure I, are able to pay the bills on time. Right? But, it's like, but all those lessons have definitely helped me, I think, build some grit and, realize what people actually are willing to pay for, how to offer the best customer experience, right? Even with that, the lunch I used to pack for employees at work, over time I realized, hey, I should probably start building a menu and like asking people in advance so I can like kind of predict what food I can make in bulk. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things I did to like kind of improve that whole experience. But yeah, I mean, just thinking back to that, it's I don't regret it at all, man. I think it was a really good way for me to just build grit over time.
Mm-hmm. So you got the early advance, like DoorDash idea way back in the day.
Yeah. I wasn't scalable, that's for sure, but it was definitely a good experience, man. I think, and then since then I've tried launching multiple startups as well, right? I had a version of Yelp way back in the day called Zeal Munch, and I actually coded the whole experience myself, built that, the overall website experience, taught myself HTML, JavaScript, went door to door to restaurants to like get them to onboard and provide me coupons and things like that, so people are willing to come and to the website and take advantage of those, and hopefully bring more foot traffic to the restaurants. I've had I've had startups that offered, then after that point, like you know uh, built websites as well as CMS solutions for local businesses. So since I learned to code and learned to design and so on, I kind of like took that and said I'll do this for other local businesses and restaurants and websites and so on. So I did that at one point. Yeah, and then I even had apps that I've worked on as well. That whole journey it's amazing. But ultimately, I definitely have I kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit from the very beginning.
Yeah, which is why from I look back at your career and into the business that you just described now, I was curious as like, why did you decide to go into what I'm going to call the corporate, and they're not quote unquote corporate companies, but why did you decide to go down that route rather than keeping that entrepreneurial side of things going?
That's a good question. I've had some startups that, again, like I mentioned, they were successful, as well as some that have failed. I think regarding the corporate, I think like it was definitely in the beginning a means to an end, right? Like, hey, like there's a lot of learning that can be had within these companies that I'm working at. When I was working at, for instance, Experience Email, I learned a lot about email marketing and how to deliver the best experience and services to Fortune 500 companies, and how to do email marketing, right? That's a skill set that I learned at that company. And then, working at Amazon, like it was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had as well. Like really understanding how to deliver the best value to customers and ensuring that you're offering the best experience. But I think over time I really loved working at these companies as well. And so I think I really got used to providing my value at these companies, and moved up the ranks here. And it's a chance for me to work at scale at some of these like larger companies, right? Like Amazon and obviously TikTok and now Kajabi. I think it's important to have that entrepreneurial kind of spirit, even if you're working at these big companies, right? So you can really be scrappy and have that sense of urgency and want to make sure you're delivering the best experience for your customers.
Yeah, it's I always call it having that entrepreneur, which I see a lot, and I guess I was like when I worked in corporate as well. You have that drive to be able to create, move, execute, but you're just doing it in a corporate environment. And it's always those people who you also see rising up really, really quickly, because the way they approach work is like that they're working for themselves. So, but one thing I've also seen play out is that can also be difficult for other people who are not used to working at that pace and in that way. So how have you learned to be able to adapt your style with other people or the teams that you've led in those different organizations you worked with?
Yeah, it's a good question. You have some really good questions here. I think every company is a little different, for sure, right? I think learning to work with others really, really valuable, asset. And it's really just making sure that we're all aligned on what the company purpose and mission is, and everyone's there with the best intentions, right? They're ultimately wanting to help ensure the company is successful. So that's fundamentally just everyone need to align and understand that's the that's the truth. Now, then on top of that, it's like, hey, how do we ensure that we have the right, set the right expectations and bar in terms of what is great, right? And that might take some little bit of like going back and forth in terms of like how we work with teams to say, this is what I think is great. Are you proud of the work that you're doing? Are you ready to showcase this to the world, right? And be open to feedback as well as like giving feedback to teams to push them to greatness, right? Um, and I think this is where I think there's probably a lot of areas that some teams may be uncomfortable saying, "Well, hey, you're in product. Why are you giving feedback on marketing?" Or "You're in marketing. Why are you giving feedback on product or customer service?" Or even, and uh, to the financial team or the project management team, whatever it might be, right? But I think that everyone should have curiosity about these different organizations. Everyone should have an opinion, right? And ultimately the best idea should win. So, as an employee at these companies, I really encourage people to attend these meetings, even if it's not like, for instance, product management meeting that goes over the product experience. I invite many different teams to this because I want to see how other people view this experience, not just the product managers, but designers, right? Like, they're not my customer, right? The customer is the people that are going to be using this tool or this app or whatever it is we're building, right? So you want to get many diverse different viewpoints on this experience. And they might catch something that we didn't see because we were so focused on one thing or another. So it's, again, like, I think I just want to make sure that everyone is open to feedback, understanding that different diverse viewpoints are really important to ensuring that we provide the best possible experience to customers. That just means that, again, that everyone is acceptable to working together and just, taking that feedback in. It's never personal. It's always about just making sure we have the best experience.
Oh, that is definitely a different different way of working. So when I think back to products and people building products, a lot of times it's like we build in a sense, isolation. And never let any other areas of the business kind of see what you're doing until like you get that final product. So being able to get other people's perspectives and leading to that right during that creation process is it's quite innovative, actually. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, we first start with the customer, right? We always talk to customers. We ask them what's working, what's not working, what we could potentially do to improve the product. What is their biggest challenge with running a business, for instance, or trying to be a content creator, or the value you're getting from a membership or whatever it might be. And then with that, we'll try to think of solutions. Right? We'll think of what is the best way to solve this problem for the customer. In that process, I invite many teams. It's not just the product team trying to think about every single potential solution. I invite people from customer experience. I invite people from FinOps, financial operations. I invite people from marketing, because people have very unique, interesting perspectives and ideas on how to approach how to approach the problem. And you'll be surprised at some of the really amazing ideas that come out, right? Engineering teams and so on. So I think that process itself is really, really critical to ensure that we have a diverse viewpoint and perspectives on how to approach the problem, and then we'll ensure that we have essentially the best ideas that we will then get behind and build.
What is it that lets you know when it's time to leave and go somewhere new? Because when I look in your background from Experian, DirecTV, even at DirecTV, I was reading that I think you're one of the founders of like Shark Tank, one of the successful programs they had in there, to Amazon, to TikTok, and now Kajabi. You start to read it, like these are big names with big titles, and you've been willing to be like, okay, I know my time's up, go somewhere else. What is that? Because you can see people who are stuck in these organizations for 10, 20, 30 years and they don't want to let go because they're big names. But you have that, there's something driving you. I'm curious to see what is that?
It's I think each of those different jumps had different reasons. I think early in your career, it's for me like trying to learn as much as possible, and work with maybe a manager. I think is going to really help me grow. Right. I think that's really important. Definitely, you know, finding the right people to be around. That's going to really catapult your career because they open new doors for you. They push in a direction that you didn't even know to look at. They get you out of your comfort zone, right? So I think like definitely working with people or managers and so on early in your career is really important. That are willing to do that for you. And then later, I think it's really following your passions and challenging yourself again. Like so, again, like early in your career, about like finding the right managers, finding the right people to work with. That's going to get you out of your comfort zone and then try new things. But then once you find your passions and once you want to seek certain types of industries or fields, it's finding the companies that will really challenge you and help you do that. So that's one of the reasons I worked at Amazon is because I really wanted to push myself and work with some of the top product managers and leaders and engineers and designers in the world, and go shoulder to shoulder to see how I stack up, right? So and really push myself. So that's and of course like it was a really amazing experience, right? So it's really just pushing yourself and making sure that you're continually improving your craft. When I was at Amazon, actually, the switch that I made to TikTok was the interesting one. TikTok actually reached out one day and said, "Hey, there's this really interesting role. Would you be interested?" I downloaded the app at the time and I saw kids dancing and lip syncing. I was like, "What? What is this? What? Why would I join this app? I mean, this is crazy." So I actually called them back and said, "No, I'm not joining this company." And then the founder, Alex, he reached out and said, "Hey, let's talk about it. Come down to California. Let's meet in person, and we'll discuss the role and what this company could potentially be." When I met with them, he flat out said, "Yeah, the content's not very diverse. There's a lot of work to be done to improve this thing, but we've figured out something that many companies have not figured out. We've figured out discovery, and discovery is actually really, really hard to do, right? A lot of people actually search for what they want, right? Amazon, you search for what you want and then you have everything. Or you go to Google, you search, what you want, you go there and search for it. Discovery is a whole different problem. But so when I heard you fear discovery, I got pretty fascinated about that. He also mentioned too, hey, short form video is the way that people will consume content in the future. I was like, that's interesting as well, right? Really cool. And then the last thing is hey, look, if we figure out these two, we can enable the last mile experiences so that people can discover and transact, right? So that means if we help people discover what books to read, what movies to watch, where to travel, what to eat, what's the latest fashion trends, it also means that if you're ready to transact, they can enable that within that experience. And that's when I got really, really excited. I was like, wow, this could really revolutionize the way people, again, travel, decide what books to read and, what movies to watch. And so I think that's where I got really excited and it was a risk that I had to take, essentially. It's hey, I have to get out of my comfort zone again, take a risk with this startup that's not very well known, especially 3 years ago, right? And see where that goes. So I think that journey was more about just taking that risk and seeing what I could potentially accomplish at the startup. So um, while I was there, though, I think it was I mean, obviously TikTok was a really unique experience. But over time, I actually had I grew a love for the creators and a lot of respect for creators because they were the ones like creating all the content for the platform. And and so like meeting with the creators and learning about their motivations and what's working for them, what's not working for them, their the problems and struggles. I learned a lot about their entire life cycle, right? So when you're a creator, early in your career, you're more about like gaining social credit and followers, right? Like likes, comments, shares, and things like that. But then there's a certain point where you're spending a lot of time creating content every single day. I mean, you're creating like you're spending 3 hours a day, then four, then five, then six. And at one point, you're thinking like, this is taking up a lot of time. I should probably get compensated for it, right? I gotta make a living here. And so, we've tried to figure out different ways to help creators earn a living. We've enabled, that $1 billion creator fund. We enabled tipping on the profile page, gifting in videos, live stream, and so on. And I think for the most part, some creators were successful, right? Like there was a really small percentage. The majority, long tail creators, were not able to earn really meaningful income. So I think during that time, I was like, well, let's find a startup that's actually doing that incredibly well. Who's doing it really well, right? What are they doing really well? Why are creators doing really well on that platform? And find out, do that research, and then just copy them, right? There's no shame in the copy game. Let's just figure out who's doing really well. But in that process, we found Kajabi. Kajabi just basically came up to the very top of the list. And like, Kajabi, that's interesting. And we started looking into this business, and throughout this research, we met with certain people and so on, and I got the opportunity to work here. But working with in this company means, or taking this job means, like I have to now oversee a much bigger team. Comes with different responsibilities, and it was definitely, again, pushing me out of my comfort zone, right? So that was something that I looked at, and then the opportunity itself, I thought like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? And I have a passion and love for helping creators build a meaningful business. So all those factors combined, I thought it was the right time to make that switch, right? And so that's essentially how I made those decisions. It's like, man, this is the time, the opportunities push me out of my comfort zone. It's a really amazing company, right? They're the customers I talked to love the team, the business, and people were making like some people have made over $100 million on the platform, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So when I hear this, I'm like, wow, you guys are doing something really, really well. So that's essentially why I decided it was time to join and see what I could potentially do to take this company to the next level.
In your time at TikTok and even now at Kajabi, did you become one of the creators? Did you get involved and start to do your own thing as well?
Yeah, I do have a TikTok channel. It's not. I have like maybe 10,000 followers. It's tough, man. Being a creator is not easy. So hats off to creators for sure. It's a tough space. So I do have content I create here and there. And then with Kajabi, I'm definitely thinking about building something as well. We do have like the free accounts so we can like play with and so on. But yeah, it's really it's fascinating. I think creating content is a really rewarding you know experience, and I really applaud people to that make it successful.
It's interesting for me. It's and this is me making a link. But when I listen to you talk about your early entrepreneurship journey to where you are right now with TikTok and Kajabi, it sounds very much like you can relate to you being an up and coming entrepreneur and doing it by yourself. And you recognize how hard it was when you didn't have an infrastructure behind you. And the last two roles, the last role and this current one has been around, okay, what can we do for entrepreneurs to give them that space in place to experience the thing I never had? And that's what you're creating in the companies you're working in.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's essentially like I feel their pain. It's like, how do I ensure that we provide the best possible tools and services to help you be successful in your entrepreneurship journey, right? So I think that's a good way to look at it, and I think that's essentially why it's like it kind of like do a full circle back, right, to working on helping creators build websites and helping creators then create their content and host their content and market their content, right? So it's kind of like, all the experiences that I've learned led up to this moment, right? So I learned about digital marketing, learned about subscription businesses, right? I learned about creators, I learned about how to build websites, and then now it's like this business is essentially all that. So
You mentioned a number of times around stepping outside your comfort zone. What has helped you to keep on being able to step outside your comfort zone? I mean, earlier you mentioned like I want to be surrounded with people who were smarter than me, so I can challenge them and challenge me. And I don't know, sometimes you're like, well, that can bring out other parts of you that can make you feel a bit inferior. But for you, it was like, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. This iron sharpens iron kind of mindset, which is not something that everyone else has naturally.
Mm-hmm. It's because it's so rewarding once you've gone through that hardship. I think that's what, at least for me, like that's what's been really, really rewarding in my career and life is like you grow through these moments where you've put your, blood, sweat, and tears into building something or improving your skills or whatever it might be, right? There's things that you dedicated a lot of your effort to, and you come out on the other side much stronger and having gone through it, and you look back and say like, wow, like I accomplished that, and that's a very rewarding feeling. And so there's, I think like if you look back at life, there's just a lot of moments like this, right? Like where you just spent a lot of effort to accomplish something, and then once you do, it's like, wow, great, on to the next. I'll be completely frank, like even doing podcasts and keynotes and getting on stage talking to thousands of people, in the beginning I was not comfortable at all. I was right, like public speaking, not comfortable. It was and I knew at that moment, like, oh man, this is scary. Like I what if I say the wrong thing? What if like people see how nervous I am? How do I get over this thing? But that's that moment you realize like this is something I gotta also work on. Right, this is something that I gotta get better at, and you will, right? It's a skill, right? And then once you do, and you get up, you get over it, and then you get better at it, and and it takes time. It's not progress is a straight line, right? You'll fumble a little bit, and you'll make mistakes, but then like over time you get better and better and better, right? I'm still trying to get better at doing podcasts. I'm not saying I'm an expert at it, but once you get once you get better, you know, you look back and say, you know, wow, yeah, look at what I accomplished, right? And so that's important in life. You know, I think that's why, you know, again, it's just important to push yourself out of comfort zone. I think everyone should go through that. So
when you worked at Amazon, and based on the role that you had, I'm assuming that you were working closely with people like Jeff and the rest of the team. And from other descriptions that I've seen around people who worked at Amazon, they've talked about how it was quite challenging in the sense that it helped you grow, but it also sometimes made you feel like there's a lot I don't know.
All the time. Yeah. Man, it was I learned so much at Amazon. I think, you know, what the big takeaways is like how much leaders deep dive into the details. And so it's, you know, it's not just breadth, but it's also depth, right? You can really understand fundamentally what the problem is you're trying to solve, and then you can really understand what the solution is and how we can improve that solution. So leaders would be incredibly involved with the details. And we used to we would launch like Amazon devices, right? When I first joined, we had just a Kindle, but over time we launched Fire tablets, Fire TV, Dash buttons, which, you know, didn't work out very well. Fire phone didn't work out. There's the Echo, right? All those launches, man, like leadership top down were involved to the details, meaning like they were reading the emails we were sending out. They were reviewing the product detail page and helping us determine what the best image to use, what the bullet points should say to represent the product, right? And what customer testimonials we should use. I mean, like, that's the level of detail these top leaders were involved in. And it made me realize how important it is to really understand, you know, and be involved with the details as well. I tell the story all the time. There was this one time I launched a campaign on the Amazon homepage and had a spelling error. And Jeff B takes a screenshot of it and puts it in the email, and it makes its way down to me. And the only thing in the email was the screenshot and the question mark, right? And I was like, oh man, I was like scared shitless. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get fired, right? But luckily I didn't get fired. But that's the level of detail that's expected. Given how busy he is, he had the time to like look on the homepage that day and find this little spelling error. And then it wasn't even like this big, you know, copy or headline. It was like it was in the fine print. It was in the legal fine print. That's why I was like even more amazed. Like this guy like was looking at the legal fine print and saw a spelling error and was like, and caught it. So that's, yeah, again, that's the level of detail that's expected. And I loved it. I loved it. I mean, it's like really made you understand, you know, you go deep, right? It's like deep dive is like a leadership principle, right? And I took that to heart, and you know, and now that's like a way I operate anywhere I go. And I expect the same for my lieutenants, the people I work with, right? The people I work with across my team as well as other teams. It's not, you know, no job is beneath you, right? You, as a leader, should be able to dive deep, understand the details of what you're launching, understand the business end to end, and I think that's essentially the playbook to success.
It's so interesting because normally you get the narrative that says as leaders, especially as senior leaders, you know enough to get by and have a conversation, but then it's your people who are the subject matter experts who are in it, who are doing the thing, because they're more operational and you're more strategic. So therefore, if you have time to be in the thing and understand the detail at that level, then that's a problem. But this is a slightly different way of looking at it.
Yeah. So, you know, there's not expectation that the leadership will be involved with every single email that gets sent out, right? You know, I don't want to give the impression like that leadership's looking at every single email that's sent out for every single campaign, every single day. That's because there's no way you can do that. It's not scalable, right? But for really big initiatives, the go-to-market, how we represent the product, you know, to give it the best chance for success, we should be involved. Like the leadership team should be involved, right? And then once it's out the door, we get a lot of data to understand how we can make it better. The teams can start optimizing, iterating, executing, right? But I think that's it is important that you know, it's the founder mentality, right? You know, even no matter how big you are, the founder, if you start a company, you're gonna be involved like with everything about the business, right? So that mentality is just never gone away, even though Amazon has how many employees, right? That mentality has never gone away. Yeah, it's like that. They call it the day one mentality, right? It's so that's just an important aspect of it. And I think it's also the same as how TikTok operated, right? The founder of TikTok, Alex Zhu, would be involved with the actual user experience designs. We would look at the designs together, and he would make feedback on where the button should be placed. He would start with the user experience and say, hey, here's how we should be presenting this experience. I mean, so it's, you know, I think like if you look at these great companies, that founder mentality and and being involved in the details is always there.
Yeah. It's a like I said, it's a point when you own it, or when you're the founder of it, you approach it very, very differently, and there's a level of care and detail that you have that not everyone else is always going to have. You try and get them into it, but it's a recognition that there's still always that extra element and step into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, when we're launching the TikTok TV app experience, right? We would go into the room with Alex, and he would review the experience with us and say, "Hey, we should make this change, that change. Can you come back and have another version of this experience?" And we're launching certain features like the playlist and literally all the really big initiatives at TikTok. He was personally involved, and he would review that experience with us end to end. So,
have you had much failure in your career?
Failure? I mean, this is part of the job. Yeah, I mean, I tell my team, I mean, like, if you're not failing, you're probably not betting big enough. You know, I had plenty of failures, man. Like a lot of products I've launched in the past haven't worked out, right? But out of those products I launched, we learned a lot. We learned what didn't work, and then how we can, pivot or iterate, or some other learnings that come out from those failures. But yeah, I've definitely launched things that, many of these companies, and the things that just, some of these things just didn't work out.
So do you have a process that allows you to be able to reflect, learn the lesson, and then kind of move forward? And now are you at a stage, because of the experience you have, where if that does happen, you can bounce back a lot quicker than previously, or does it still hurt?
Yeah. So I definitely let my teams know, like, hey, failure is part of the process. It's expect to fail. That you're making progress when you're failing, right? Versus everything you launch is performing well. Like if everything works all the time, it definitely means that people are not taking big swings. They're just like iterating and optimizing on things that work, that will work, right? Like, oh, this is like, it's a small bet. Um, and we when it comes to big bets, and we definitely have a process. Like we talk to customers, we understand what the problem is, we know exactly who the customers are, and then we'll think of a solution and build out an MVP, right? We try to validate the solution quickly, so we fail fast if it's not working, and then we'll take that experience and then iterate on it, pivot, or whatever we need to do. But the I think mistakes I've made in the past, early in my career, was I would assume an idea is going to work and spend a lot of time to perfect it before we launch, and only to find out no one wants this thing, right? So over time, I've been able to minimize the investment resources, just kind of build the MVP, build the core experience, just have that one functionality that I want to test to ensure this is solving a problem. Get it out there, and if it's successful, then build on top of it. But if it's not, quickly iterate, right? Either move on or like iterate or pivot. So that's it. That's essentially the process that I've gotten better at over time.
You said that you're now in a space where you're looking after a larger team, but more people than previously. What are some of the challenges that have come in that process for you, especially when it comes to your leadership?
Yeah, it's I would say it's building a process that allows people to collaborate and ensure that everyone is in a place where we can hear the best ideas and ensure that everyone's super metrics focused and so on. And so I think like it's more building out some processes, working out the different personalities of these leaders, right? And getting everyone aligned on the mission and value and purpose, and what and ensuring that feedback and ideas are just a way to make progress here. I think those are kind of things that I think that it's not always super easy, right? Like it's essentially like how you're building culture at new companies, right? All those things that I'm talking about right now is like it's the culture you're building, what kind of culture you want to set for your teams. And changing culture for big organizations is definitely tough, right? I heard somewhere that it takes at least a year to change culture, right? And you just got to get the right people in place, and and empower people, give people the flexibility to make decisions on their own. At the same time, like set a very clear vision, right? And then ultimately build out ways that we can collaborate much easier and faster. So I think those are kind of things that it takes some time, and then of course again getting people all super aligned on the mission, value, and vision, and making sure everyone's like really bought into it, right? Like those are kind of things that I think it just takes some time, but it's what I'm learning is like it's really just important to get the right people in those spots, right? And then focus on the problem and solution and product and start building.
And part of the leadership is also around modeling like certain behaviors. So I'm curious, for someone who's loves the product, heavily invested, how do you look after yourself? How do you look after yourself? I was It could be exercise, it could be all these different things. How do you model that side of things to your people in your team as well, like around self care, mental health?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I definitely make it clear, like, hey, there shouldn't be you shouldn't be in a situation where like you have to feel like you're working 24/7, right? Like we want to have a healthy balance here, but ultimately we want to find people that are really passionate about the space, really want to make a difference, really care about the work, and then from there it's like then you set your own time, like you don't have to say I'm going to work. Like you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about like, hey, you have to work 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day, or like here's 12 hours or whatever it might be, right? Um, People will, if you find the right people, the really passionate people in place, then and they love what they do, then they'll work really hard, right? So but to your question, like I'm definitely like very passionate about what I do, and like I spend maybe more time than others looking at the space and researching and thinking about it and so on. But I also make it very clear, like, hey, you take time off when you can, like go, because it's really important actually when you take time off, like you reset, clear your brain, come back with more creative thoughts and ideas, right? But I also do the same when I go on vacation. I tell my team, like, I'm going on vacation, and come back and explain how much fun I had when I did, and share pictures if I can. But so I kind of exemplify that with my team as well. It's like just take time off when you can. When you're sick, take time off. And so it's not that's kind of like expectation I kind of set with my team, but also work hard as well. So.
What is your long-term vision when it comes to the creator economy?
A long-term vision for the creator economy? Yeah, it's a good question. I think that the barrier of entry has gotten so much easier now to be a content creator. Excuse me, to be a content creator, right? So anyone that has a cell phone or a smartphone, I guess, with the cameras can be potentially a content creator. Now, there's obviously different levels of skills so over time, I think we really want to empower people to become content creators, and if they and give them the right tool sets and skills to be better and better over time. But ultimately, we want to build an economy where the right people have the right tools to essentially build businesses around what they are good at. And I think that's essentially how we're coming at it. It's like, hey, if you want to be an entrepreneur as a content creator, you should have the right tools, you should have the right services, and you should have everything at your fingertips to be able to be successful. The knowledge, the teams, and whatever it might be. So I think that's essentially what we're trying to build and accomplish with our company, and give you, give you everything you need. Essentially, giving you everything you need to be successful.
I like that. I'm just there reflecting and thinking about it, how much impact that can make. Because I think a lot of times, like I said, the people that come into this and they don't have a clue around the business side of things. They're good at creating content, but everything else, which makes it a sustainable business for them, they don't have a clue about. And you always find yourself scrambling different spaces and places trying to find things out or get research. You don't know what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent. But having that one-stop shop with everything there built purposely for that audience is critical.
Yeah. I mean, the way I kind of explain to my team is like as for the vision, it's more, we want to be the most creator focused company in the world, right? And we want to provide the best tools and services and education so that these creators have the best chance for success, right? That's essentially what we want to provide, and how we get there, right, will be will change over time and evolve. But essentially, that's our vision.
Have you learned to ignore the noise from competitors? Because when I think back to like your time with us at TikTok and at Amazon, there have been times when, like you said, other companies are going to copy what you do. And I'm sure that can be frustrating sometimes, but it can also be very invigorating. Okay, we're going to do something else. So how do you like learn to just drown out that noise and focus on your vision, your North Star, rather than being so annoyed and frustrated at when other people copy you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. So we keep our eye on the customer and the customer problems, and ensuring that we're focusing on that, right? First and foremost, that's number one. It's like, hey, what is it that we could potentially do to make our customers' lives easier? What can we do to help them make more money? What can we do to help them reach their audience? What is it we can do to improve their content quality, or what type of content we build out for them, or they can build for themselves, right? So that's first and foremost the most important thing. That's not saying that we're never going to look at the competition. The competition will always, it'd be something that we review and see what they're working on, what they're building. But overall, it's not a most critical factor in how we make decisions, right? And if anything, like I think what we do is we look at trying to solve the hardest problem possible. Right? We look at, and typically you'll notice like a lot of competitors are not even playing that space because it's so hard, right? So that's what we do. It's like, hey, what's the hardest customer problem we can solve? And then what's the, what we could potentially do to solve it? And you'll notice a lot of the time is that the competitors are not playing that space because it's so hard.
There's something around you operate in a space that's difficult, that seems to be like invigorating for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I guess kind of how I think, right? It's like if it's easy, then everyone's going to do it, right? I mean, if you'll notice like a lot of our competitors, right? Like they offer very similar experiences, and that's not what differentiates, a good company from a great company. So I think, it's just important to make sure you're focusing on things that's really going to change the business for our customers, and focus on the most important meaty problems. And I think the challenges you focus on are going to be, again, like the ones that will really have a material positive impact on your customers' lives. Like I guess another way to look at it is like, hey, if you're always looking at your competitors, you're always second. You're always like following, right? Versus like if you keep your eye on the customer and focus on the customer and solving that problem, like you'll find some really meaty problems to solve for. And then you'll always be first. People are following because you built something you really, solve this really complex, challenging, meaty problem that other people aren't willing to solve for. You solve it, and then then people are following after that point.
Is it of all the things you've accomplished in all the different companies you've worked in, are there one or two things that you are most proud of?
The things I'm most proud of, that like products that I've launched, or just like overall accomplishments, or
overall accomplishments. There could be products, there could be whatever it's important to you. I'm just curious.
I think uh, one of the things I'm proud of was it may sound kind of silly, but when I was at Amazon, it was you know like I didn't come from a you know background where I had like a MBA. I didn't come from like a prestigious like Ivy League school, right? Which a lot of people were, and I was shoulder to shoulder working with some of the best, brightest people in the world, um, and getting promoted there is actually a really big deal to to that new level, right? At the time, it was like L7. I mean, I remember working so hard to try to get promoted, and it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I'll tell you, it's not easy. But then once I think once that happened, I was like, wow, like I made it, right. So I think that was a really really interesting accomplishment there. I also I launched some really great products when I was there as well with the team. Um, we launched the really amazing cancellation experience for Prime memberships that really helped Prime members understand the value of the experience of the membership. Um, so I think that that's a really 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 great product that we launched while we're there. Um, At TikTok, yeah, there's a lot of really great products that we've launched while we're there. Like we launched together as a team, like the Stitch feature. I don't know if you've heard of that feature. The Stitch feature essentially allows creators to watch someone's content and then stitch their own ending.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that our team worked on because we found that creators were doing this outside the app, and we wanted to make this experience much easier. Like, hey, there's an existing behavior. How do you then allow that behavior to happen in the app? We built that, and then the use cases that came after that were really amazing. Use cases that we never even thought would actually happen. Right? People were then asking the audience questions, and people would stitch their own ending. And then after that experience is when we started building additional collaborative features that really help improve the app experience. So I think like those are. I think that's a feature that the team has really worked on that were really really amazing.
Powerful. So it's quite interesting listening to. That's why I always leave that question quite open. I was curious to see what was important to you, and it's quite interesting. You led with you worked hard to get that promotion. You made it happen.
Wow. Edit that one out, yeah, because like I thought about it. I was like, yeah, is it really something I should probably like?
Hell yeah! You should celebrate it because it's never easy. You know how hard it was for you, so I think it's important.
Yeah, it was tough at the time, right? At the time, back this was many years ago. At the time it was it was definitely a lot of work, and it was very tough. So I think so I think like when it happened, I'm like, yeah, of course I was like really proud of that moment. So.
What was it about getting that promotion that meant so much to you?
Yeah. So, like I didn't get the promotion the first time around, right? And I was really discouraged. And at the time, I was like, man, like why didn't I get it? And I had to think about it a lot, and I have to pick myself up and say, hey, you know what? I want to show up 110% every single day. I want to make sure that there's absolutely no doubt the next time around that the promotion cycle comes up that I should get this promotion. And I had to really just ensure that I deliver my best and show up to every single meeting, and give it my all, and I think that's why it was such a really important moment in my life, is because there was that, I guess, like failure, right, and disappointment of it not happening, and then learning from that experience, and then doing everything you can to ensure that you're successful the second time around. And I think that's why it was just a really important moment for me.
Yeah, I love it. And I guess my last question to you would be, how do you define leadership?
How do I define leadership? I think there's a few ways to define it. It's leadership is being able to set the vision, mission, and purpose. It's being able to empower the teams to help meet that vision, right? And then it's also being humble enough to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and having the right people with you to help you accomplish your vision.
It's been a pleasure listening to your experiences, and it's been quite really inspiring, actually, from the come up from where you were and hustling back then to where you are right now, and kind of coming full circle. But having that, say that fire still burning in a way that keeps on driving you forward to like keep on creating and to see change happen, especially in the current creator economy, which is your current focus right now. For me, it's super inspiring. Wow. Appreciate your time today. And is there anything that you want people to tap into that you're doing right now?
Well, I mean, I definitely want people to learn more about Kajabi. I think, it's not as well known as TikTok or Amazon, obviously. We have a lot of work to do there, but it's a very, very, powerful platform that helps creators market, publish, or sell their digital content, such as video courses, podcasts, newsletters, like coaching, live stream, and so on. We have over 60,000 customers that have made $4 billion to date, right? So incredibly successful businesses that are run on this platform. Hundreds of thousands of businesses have been created. I think on average, creators make $30K a year. These are numbers that are like almost unheard of in the creator economy space, right? So some of these creators have made over $100 million, like really, really successful platform. And it's because it's the tools itself, it's the services that we offer behind it, and this the community. We have a lot of creators here that are just ready to help each other out. So as soon as you come in, it's a really welcoming community that are handing people the playbook, saying, "Here's how I've reached success. Here's how you can make it too. Here are the steps to building a really amazing business." So that's something that I would definitely want to make sure that more people realize with Kajabi.
As someone who's used Kajabi in the past as well, I can also verify every single thing that Sean is saying. It was actually a good platform that I enjoyed using, and it was very easy to use. It was a little plug and play, to be honest, which is why I enjoyed it the most, because I don't code. So I wanted a no-code solution, and it kind of tapped into that and made it a lot easier. So highly recommend Kajabi as well, for sure. This is Everyday Leadership. We'll see you next week.